I'm going to tell the story of how I summoned a malevolent spirit using the Ouija board. I didn't know at the time, but this ended up being my segue into the strange and dangerous world of practicing the occult. This story is also a cautionary tale to anybody who is thinking of engaging in these practices. Stay away from these things. I'm also including most horror movies in this warning. A human mind is not capable of discerning the spirit realm. Live in the material, focus on things that will make your life better and help others. That's all I have to say about that. As much as I don't believe in dogma, religion warns us against this. Let's begin with how it all started. I grew up in a Catholic household in the 90s. We knew that certain spiritual objects were not to be played around with, but we didn't fully understand why. The most infamous of these objects would have been the Ouija board. So naturally, our curiosity was piqued. One of my friends had a Ouija board and he decided to bring it over so we could try to communicate with a relative that had passed on. My sister decided to join the game with us, so we decided to bring it to the basement as this was the darkest part of the house. The three of us put our hands on the planchette to communicate with the spirit. We asked if anybody was there. At first there was no response, then we asked again. Then the planchette started to move to yes. We asked the spirit to tell us who he was, and it spelled S-A-M. Now, I was pretty skeptical at the time of what was going on. I thought maybe my sister or my friend were moving the planchette, so I decided to start playing the game by myself. And anybody that knows anything about the Ouija board knows that you're supposed to have more than one set of hands on the planchette. So I started playing with the Ouija board and I started talking to the spirit. So I asked the spirit, "What's your name?" And at first it didn't move. And then all of a sudden I felt something moving my hands, and it spelled S-A-M. I immediately got freaked out and I stopped playing. I didn't want to play this game anymore. That scared the crap out of me. I was really young at the time and I felt something moving my hand. We put the game away, not knowing at the time that you're supposed to actually say goodbye to the game. There's like a whole ritual with the Ouija board and what you're supposed to do, and there's a protocol when you're speaking to whatever spirit you're trying to speak to. And we didn't really understand these things. We were young. We didn't really know a whole lot about this stuff, so we put it away. Didn't think anything of it. I was a little freaked out about the situation. I was kind of scared. The night went by, no big deal. But over the course of a long period of time, many years, we were experiencing strange phenomena around the house. We'd see balls of light in the hall. I would see shadow figures moving around in my room. But the worst part of this was I used to have horrible visions in my subconscious. I would see this malevolent spirit with a distorted voice attacking my family members. And it really disturbed me. This happened to me from a really young age. I was 11 at the time, but over the course of many years, I still had these visions going on. There was nothing I could do to rid myself of this thought. There was some kind of effect with playing with this Ouija board. Whatever I did, I don't know if I unlocked something in my mind, if I was communicating with something, but something felt like it was connected with me and it didn't give me good visions. It was really disturbing me because I love my family. So this was like showing me it was attacking the people that I love the most. I also experienced sleep paralysis quite a bit throughout this time. I would fall asleep and I would be kind of like in a half awake, half asleep state. I'd be conscious and I'd be looking around, but my body couldn't move. And I'd always feel like there was someone in the room. There were some times where there would be like a woman floating above me. And then sometimes I'd see a person that kind of seemed like a male figure, but I didn't know who it was. And then sometimes I would just feel a presence and I couldn't move my body. There's scientific explanations for this, so this might not have been some kind of paranormal encounter. Then we get to a point where I would have these experiences for a good few years and then nothing. I'd have nothing for like 3 years, just completely nothing. I wouldn't have any manifestations. My life would just go back to normal. And then they started coming back again, and it kept going on and off until I was in my 30s. I'm being vulnerable here by admitting to this, but there was a really long time where I was terrified of the dark. I think there's a lot more people that are afraid of the dark. I'm not afraid of the dark now, but I used to go to bed at night and there was a lot of times where I didn't want to sleep in my room. I would see stuff floating around in my room. I would see like shadow figures. I saw that there's other people that have had the same experiences as me. There's other people that have had experiences with these shadow figures. Another thing that frustrated me about this is I always thought because I was baptized at birth that there was some kind of protection against this kind of thing. I thought that my faith was going to protect me. I always thought that you pray to Jesus and you're protected. And I did make a video about some paranormal activity I had before. There were some people in the comments that were kind of attacking my post and saying that I was communicating with spirits and that I should go back to Jesus to basically remedy the situation. These are things I tried many times. I tried praying to Jesus many times when this was happening. Nothing remedied the situation. It really didn't do anything for me. Nothing got fixed. I didn't get saved by any external savior. This went on for a really long time. I tried my best to understand what was going on with me. My religion wasn't helping me. I feel like I'm disadvantaged because I watch so many people online talking about how they got saved by Christianity. I actually wish that happened to me. None of that helped me with this situation. I started studying angelology and demonology. I started getting heavy into the teachings of like how King Solomon communicated with these spirits. I got into the Ars Goetia. It was created, I believe it was the 17th century or 16th century. Somebody in France had put together the book of all the different lesser spirits and angels that King Solomon had summoned to help build his temple. They don't really talk about this in the Bible. This isn't in the Bible. I believe in the other Abrahamic books, they talk about King Solomon's mystical powers, but for some reason the Bible doesn't include it, which is also really interesting. But he had summoned these different spirits. They were supposed to help him, and people have gotten into these kind of practices. They've gotten into communicating with these spirits. They have like a whole ritual that they go through. I've seen different conceptualizations where people think this is Carl Jung's teachings, where you're just identifying with a certain archetype. And as a skeptic, as I've become a skeptic and I'm older now and I'm more wiser and I'm more understanding that there's scientific explanations of things, this may have just been an experience with my own shadow self. When I started studying Carl Jung, there was a whole shadow self, like your darker side. And I think a lot of these demonology and angelology explanations, it's just you communicating with the darker aspects of your psyche. And that may be what a demon actually is. It might not actually necessarily be an external source of torment. It could just be your own deep, dark feelings that you have to face. We experience everything through our own subconscious, but I think there are things external to us that are spiritual that I don't believe we should be communicating with, because I don't think we really know what they are, and I don't think our brain can comprehend what's going on. From what I've seen and from what I've experienced myself, every time I've practiced this type of stuff, I didn't really get the best results and my life didn't really go in a favorable direction. The only thing that fixed this was I had a massive spiritual awakening. I had what seemed to be Kundalini awakening. Anybody that knows what Kundalini awakening is, it's when the base of your spine releases a type of energy. It's almost like a serpentine energy. And my back got aligned. I started involuntarily doing yoga poses. And this was how I got out of practicing all of this occult stuff. I had this massive awakening. I got really into the Dharmic religions and I found there was a lot of peace in them. I got into like yoga, meditation. I started feeling a deep connection to Kali Ma, or Ma Kali, who's a female Hindu goddess. She is the most powerful of the Hindu goddesses. She destroyed a demon by using the pantheon of God's powers, and she became super powerful. I had a statue of her, and I used to put the statue on my dresser, and for some reason it helped me overcome my fear of the dark. Even when I had these like weird manifestations of these shadow figures, I just went to sleep. And it got to the point where I wasn't afraid of the dark anymore. And now I'm not afraid of the dark at all. I can be in the dark at any time. Nothing that I feel that's around me that's spiritual, I don't think it means me any harm. Studying Kali Ma and seeing the fact that she is such a powerful goddess, it helped me overcome my fear of the dark. It helped me get out of all of these practices. I started just going on a straight and narrow path. I know some people might say that that's idolatry. I had a statue. I don't really care what other people think about what I practice or how I believe. This helped me with something that I really struggled with for a long period of time in my life. And I think that anything that you do that makes your life better, that makes you happier and more at peace, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Just because somebody else's book doesn't agree with you, that doesn't mean that you're wrong. And it doesn't mean that you're going to hell for all of eternity. There's nothing wrong with you doing something that brings you peace. And this statue, for some reason, it gave me peace. I felt a lot more peace in my home. I felt a lot more calm, and I was able to get over my fear of the dark. This might sound weird. I feel weird talking about my fear of the dark as a 40-year-old man, but I conquered it in my 30s. And I'm not afraid to admit to that. I'm not afraid to admit that I had a fear of the dark. I think anybody in my situation probably would have been afraid of the dark for longer. Not to sound like I'm tough or anything, but dealing with these kinds of things is not easy and it's very alienating. Not a lot of people understand what's going on. And this platform helped me out a lot with this. And that's why I'm sharing this experience. I think it's a very unique experience. I don't think anybody should play around with a Ouija board. And it's not that I think that the Ouija board is going to bring some demon through and it's going to possess you. It's that I just don't think there's a point in trying to communicate with some kind of otherworldly being. Like, we live in a material reality, and yeah, this stuff is interesting. It's kind of like scary and people like to be scared, but even horror movies, you're watching something that's evil. You're getting entertained by evil. And as much as I don't believe in the Bible, I don't believe in the teachings that I was raised with, I don't believe in going to certain churches and listen to what they have to say about the enemy and all that stuff. I don't agree with that, but I do agree with the fact that when you watch horror movies, you're entertaining evil. I saw a priest talk about this and I agree with him. That actually makes sense. And I never thought I would be fully agreeing with a priest like that because I don't agree with a lot of the things they teach. Nobody knows what happens when we cross over to the other side. Nobody knows what this really is, and nobody can claim to know that. And I'm going to be making a video about that because there's so many people who think they know what absolute truth is. Truth is subjective to each person, to each and every person. It cannot be put in a book. Anyways, I don't want to get into a truth video because I'm going to make a video on truth, but getting away from studying the occult, getting away from studying angelology and demonology, I was like heavy into this. I got into like demonic tarot cards. I was like pulling out tarot cards which had the different characteristics of the demons, and I was trying to communicate with them. I'd like the specific incense for that specific spirit. I would do the whole circle thing, and I would communicate with the spirit. There were some times where I had to invoke one of them. I had some serious psychological issues after. This is why you shouldn't play around with this. You don't know what you're communicating with. Even if it's just my subconscious, you're overcomplicating your life. You don't need to be doing this. I might not be speaking to a large group of people right now. This might be a very niche group of people. I don't believe in playing around with lesser spirits. I believe they exist. I think it occupies a space around us. I've had too many experiences to not believe that these things exist, but I don't think it serves us to communicate with them. I think you're better off just living your life, living a material existence, enjoying your material existence, being the best person you can be, try to become the best person you can be. This situation made me a better person. I'm no longer afraid of the dark. I'm not as afraid of these type of things anymore. I have overcome this on my own, and I still have a faith in God. I believe that whatever God created, it's helping me move forward and be on the straight and narrow. That's all I got for this video. If you've ever had a paranormal experience, let me know in the comments, but try to keep it respectful. Anyways, have a good morning, have a good afternoon, have a good evening. See you in the next video.